So you have been a curator for several decades. You've focused on, as far as I know, many forms of electronic art, interactive art, robotic art, combination of all sorts of systems. Can you summarize the concepts you have explored through your work? Can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, I have been trained in science, and I worked in research, medical research, and then into art. And ever since, I am interested in the intersection of art, science, and technology, and this actually is the focus of my work, whether this and education as well, but in this area. And this means that whether I do in collaboration an art project, which we exhibit, or whether it is an educational project, or whether I curate an exhibition, it always centers on these topics.
On art, science,
art, science, and technology. Okay. Lately, it has moved a little bit.
Don't move so much.
Yeah, because there are, in the last few years, social issues and social innovation and change became quite a focus in the sciences. And so some of the projects I am involved with are moving into that direction.
I've known you for at least 2 decades. We've met in Europe, and I had always assumed that you're Hungarian, as you are. But in your second life, you're also Canadian, and you work in Canada. And so does this have any specific context within your work? The fact that you live in Canada, but you live in Hungary as well. You're in between 2 continents. You're trying to curate at both continents. How does that reflect, in the context of your work?
Well, I do have a dual citizenship, and I do work not only in Hungary and Canada, but one of the aims I have is to bring representatives of different cultures together to create links and connections, and whether that is in South Africa or whether it is in Indonesia, I think it is very important that we actually not only talk about collaboration, but we do something about it.
Yes, and you've been very good at that.
I am
absolutely
doing my best.
Yeah. So what do you consider to be the most important exhibition you have developed, the most important project?
Well, it's difficult to say. The most successful was the Resonance project, because it traveled in 7 countries, and it was based on Nikola Tesla's concept of electromagnetism and the human body. And that was definitely quite a successful touring and very big touring exhibition. But actually, even before that, I developed this concept with touring exhibitions where I work always with local co-curators, and the exhibition changes because we always integrate local artists into the touring exhibition, so each exhibition is different.
Who were the artists participating in the Nikola Tesla exhibition?
Catherine Richards.
Excellent.
And
we have her for the Age of Catastrophe. Yes,
yes, and David Thomas, and Giselle Trudel, and Stefan Claude, and Jean-Pierre Aubé, and so there were a number of Marie-Jeanne Musiol. Yeah.
You come from the area of the sciences,
yes.
and you are working very much for the art-science collaborations. Are you satisfied with the level of the art-science collaborations today?
Not yet, especially because I'm irritated by the fact that I just come from the Recreate conference, and yet again the question comes up that is this a real collaboration? Who initiated it? And
so taking ownership of that.
And can artists and scientists work together? Can they understand each other and so forth? Which is, I surely think that they can, and I also think that they might have sometimes different background, different context, but each of them has to do research, each of them has to do a methodology, and there is an outcome.
You mentioned that lately you have started changing your curatorial practice by involving more social elements in the research. So do you believe that art today is more socially responsive, being affected by the huge crisis we have around us?
I do think that there are some major trends. One is the exploration of environment and environmental art. The other one is about bioart, but it's a new way of looking at bioart. And then social issues, for example, about generations and age, the definition of age, the definition of who is a child today and who is an old person today, and how do they relate to each other.
Right, those are very important issues. But has the role of the arts and the artists changed with the obvious advent of info and biotechnologies? Are we experiencing a transformation of the established values in the arts? Is the situation leading to changes on the cultural front as well?
I do think there are changes, maybe not in mainstream fine art, maybe that is changing, but the time when the solitude of the artist in his or her studio, that has been often changed today for collaborations. This is a big change. And the way, I just wrote a paper about it, the way how we present is differently now. I mean, the venues are different. Even symposiums, I organize now some walking symposiums, 3 of them, and they are, totally different than a big conference symposium.
Yeah. So the themes with which you work are not only artistic and cultural, you also touch on many ethical
Yes.
dilemmas.
Yes.
So can you elaborate a bit on the importance of ethics in art, technological art?
Yes, I think it is especially concerning social innovation and social change. You really have to examine. For example, there is this difference. It started all with non-profits and artists, and now there's a big corporate involvement there. So I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that one should really investigate.
Yeah. So what do you think about the interfaces in art? What are the general, like in biotech art, the interfaces between bioscience and art? What is your position in interfaces?
In what sense?
Well, interfaces are always in, like spaces in spaces in development, spaces in between the scientific and the artistic. What is it that connects these 2 big avenues of human thought, humanities, sciences? Where is the biggest experiment? Is it in social media, for example? Is that becoming important?
I don't think that there is such a thing as biggest or largest, but I do think that, as I said, that representations are changing on one hand, and also I think that that we do have some new ways of collaborations now in arts and science, which were not necessarily that prominent before. And also, I just participated in one of these Leonardo Laser events in Toronto, and there was a physicist who is working in a U.S. physicist who is working in Antarctica, and an artist, and they do these spectacular big installations. And I asked the physicist why does he do this, and he said he's very interested in education and the aesthetic principles of the artist, because he feels that this way they create a much more accessible project than if he would write a scientific article. So these questions are now much more put forward. And
it is very interesting, because suddenly we have all these scientists that are interested in the arts.
Yeah.
In the beginning, remember how when we did the biotech art workshops, we were, just trying to get any scientists we could so that they would, be a part of the project, so that they could do workshops, lead them, tell us more about the scientific processes. But now, I think it has turned around, and you have all these scientists interested in the arts.
Yeah, and they are very good, like Jens Hauser and people like him, and the work of Symbiotica, and the whole range.
Yes, it has been validated. Do you think the art institutions have become more open to artists dealing with technology?
No.
No.
I think,
like in terms of funding, commissioning, exhibiting, no.
I mean,
none of those.
In my own experience, unless you have an in and a personal understanding where you can even open your mouth and they listen to you, it's very difficult. It remains difficult.
Yeah. Where do you see the biggest experiment in the arts happening today? In what area? Like in the past, we used to have internet or biotechnology.
I don't know, because I work in particular areas, and there I see the developments. I work in New Zealand with environmental activism. I work, or Balance on Balance is another environmental issue-based conference, or I work with art and medicine. But I don't know then what happens actually, in other areas like astrophysics and.
Yeah, but you do work in many other areas also geographically. You mentioned New Zealand, the indigenous cultures, etc. Do you think that the Western art canon is still valid? Important for arts or for technology?
I really think that there should be, especially now in the age of the internet, there should be much more effort put into a better understanding of other cultures and other art movements. I mean, if you go to Latin America, you discover very vital, very vibrant scenes, which here nobody knows about. You go to Indonesia, you find out that there is a really strong making movement.
Yes.
Nobody knows about it. And there is ways to make this more understand and more visible, but I don't know.
Well, you're one of the people helping.
Yeah, but that's nothing. I'm just one little person. Yes. I mean, there should be much more.
Yeah, so there has to be much more work done in regard to
and openness and canon, interest, right?
I remember do you remember Irvin, from the Slovenian art group that came out from the Neue Slowenische Kunst, that Leibach came out from?
Yes.
And they were kind of really adamant that they wanted to change the Western art canon by including East art. And what they meant by East art then was Eastern European art, because that wasn't validated, right? Movements which happened in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Very often movements and artists dealt with work which preceded for a decade the work which happened in the western part of Europe, but it was not validated, so they made it their task to validate this. And I can imagine how bigger the problem is if you take artists from Indonesia, even China, Africa, South America. But it's a changing world. We're getting there.
Yeah, but people should be more open to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much.
I thank you.